Well, good evening on this second Sunday of February 2026. We are getting recorded here, and you folks will see this later this evening. And where I'm sitting, it is raining still here down in East Central Georgia and Columbus. We've had rain most of the day. We had about an hour and a half of sunshine, Marty. It was beautiful. And then the clouds rolled back in, and we've had a couple of big downpours, and now it's just a little steady rain, and it should rain until sometime tonight and move out of here. But you, my friend, are in golfer's paradise in South Carolina. I hear you're in Hilton Head. Tell us about that.
Yes, we're up here with the shorter women golf team, and we had our practice round. We got about halfway through, and rain hit us too. So we're going to tee off in the morning and play. We tee off at 8:30. So yeah, it's a beautiful place up here.
There's some incredible golf courses up in that area of South Carolina for sure. But you were asking about how the week had gone. I know you've had a busy week. You're traveling this weekend and the first part of the week, but we've been busy at Georgia Alabama Sports Live. It's been region tournament time down here in our area in basketball, and baseball season has opened, and it is getting busier and busier as we go until basketball winds up. Now we're like I was when I was working at Columbus State. We've got every sport we've got going here in February. And speaking of basketball, look who just showed up, Marty.
Yeah.
We talk about basketball and talk about good basketball, and look who shows up, a basketball coach. How about that? Coach Gene Durden back with us, and we're so glad to have him, head girls basketball coach at Buford High School in Georgia. And Coach, welcome back to Step Up, Make a Difference. We are so glad you were able to join us again today.
Listen, Mike, I am so honored to be here. Now, you just talking about basketball coach. I don't know. I've been called a whole lot of things. Sometimes it's not basketball coach. Like I said, I'm so thankful to be back with you and Marty and good people. And I'm just always excited to be a part of the show.
Well, we are honored that you're here. I think we're long lost cousins and just don't know it. But we just have a lot of respect for you, Gene, and what you do, Coach, for the lives of a lot of people. I've been bombarded since I posted you were going to be our guest. I've been bombarded with old coaches that you and I both know and that Mike know. Hey, you got Gene back on there. And then they tell me Gene Durden stories, but we probably don't need to go into those. But there's a lot of people out there waiting to see this show, and I'm excited, and I'm just so proud that you're here with us tonight.
Well, I know you mentioned some of those names, man. You were mentioning people like Ronnie Jones, Gordy Gruel, Robert Melton, and I'm gonna tell you what, every one of those men has had an impact on my life in some way or the other, and it's been. Ronnie was a mentor to me. Gordy, I called Gordy not long ago and just talked to him, and I told him, I said, I would not be where I am without the influence and what you did for me in high school, and Willis Jones, and like I said, Robert Melton, good gosh, nothing but great memories. So, man, I tell you what, I'm just happy that God crossed my path with all those people in my life.
I'm going to tell you, they were great coaches. But I'm telling you, they were even better people. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Because just making a difference. That's why we call this Step Up. Those guys stepped up. Now it's your turn to step up,
Well, you mentioned earlier, and we talked about it on the last podcast, and I'll end with something on it, but the greatest thing about coaching, in my opinion, is the relationships. And let me tell you what, that's something that, man, like I said, the relationships with those people. My parents get mad at me all the time because in every parent meeting I say, I think I might have mentioned this last time, in high school sports, we've lost what the real meaning is. We've turned it into scholarships, rankings, and accolades, and it should be about memories, relationships, and preparation for life. And just think about that. When you just mentioned those names, man, my mind flooded with great memories. And that's what high school and all should be about, but also the coaching profession too.
Man, you're
Yeah,
right.
no doubt about it, Coach. It is. We talked a little bit about last time about it too. About sometimes you run into kids that you either taught in the classroom or coached that you hadn't seen in a long time, and that actually happened to me at church this morning. I ran into a young man that I taught in the classroom. I didn't get to didn't get to coach him, but I taught him in the classroom as an eighth grader. Must have been about 5 years ago. And saw him at church this morning, and he looks great. And we had a really nice talk, he and his mom, right after church, and he's doing well. He didn't drink the Kool-Aid that you've got to go to a 4-year school and get some kind of degree. He has gone to technical school and is about to graduate soon in HVAC, and he will do extremely well. He will, there's demand for people in those trades, and he is going to do fantastic. He's motivated. He said, yeah, I think I'm going to go work for somebody for a while. And he said, once I get some experience under my belt, he said, I may just try to go out on my own and own my own business. And I said, man, I'm proud of you. I said, because there were some days in the 8th grade, and I didn't know if he was going to make it or not. He was one of those kids. He was very mischievous, very popular, very great leader, but sometimes he didn't always know how to behave, if you know what I mean. So, but he seems to have grown up quite a lot and look fantastic. It was really good to see him and get to talk to him. I was proud the whole time I was talking to him. So that's what it's all about, and what we do is getting to have those relationships and getting to see what they're doing a little bit later on.
Look at our new guest that popped in.
Yeah, how about that?
This is my best child. Don't want any gas money or no kind of anything. She unconditional love. When I lose a game, she don't care.
There you go.
Well, listen, I want to, Coach, you're 24 and one. No, you're 23 and 1, right?
Well, 24 and 1, but it's okay.
24. That was close.
23 in a row, Marty. 23 wins in a row. I think, Coach, you lost your second game of the season, right?
Lost second game of the season. And, like I said, lost to a really good team. And we're having a great year right now. But like I said, I'm just happy that the girls are buying the Kool-Aid and doing what we need them to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what have you got coming up this week, Coach? Where have we reached in Georgia in the public school side? I know where we are in the private school side. Where have we reached in the public school side?
We are right now about to start our region tournament. Matter of fact, some have already started. I don't try to practice on Sunday, but we had a pickup game, kind of crazy situation. Milton High School, I got a good friend up at Milton. And they had lost a game, and we had lost a game with a team that canceled out. So they called me. We'd finished up our season last Tuesday, and they needed a game on Thursday. Well, we don't play again. We got to bye till Wednesday. So we went to Milton on Thursday night, 1-1 in overtime. They're the number 2 ranked team in 5A. Mm-hmm. We had a great war down there, and the one that, this time of year, that win, lose, or draw, if you can get better and get prepared for the tournament, mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. So we had a great game on Thursday to end our season. I don't like to practice on Sunday, but I gave them Friday. We was off of school Friday and Saturday, and I really worry about their legs now at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday off, but I didn't want to give them 3 days off. So I just got back from practice a few minutes ago, and then we'll play Wednesday. We got a bye, so we'll also play on Friday, but hopefully we'll do well in the region. We got to win 2 games right now to be the region champions, and we're undefeated in our region right now, and nobody's kind of came within 20 points of us. But we're not looking past nobody. There's a lot of people that wants to beat us, and so we're preparing for that right now.
Well, I share your concern. I'm always afraid of buys. I want to play. I just don't like the buy. And you're in a position now where you've won all these games. You haven't trailed anybody. Somebody comes out hot, gets up on you, and you never know what might happen. So you're preparing for that. You know what's going on.
Well, basketball's a tournament game. Now, I think they're trying to take a lot of the tournament out of it, coming up with these power rankings and all like that in Georgia, and that's a whole different story. But it's always been a tournament game, and it don't take but one kind of a lapse of not being ready and everything else. And kids nowadays, boy, trying to keep them focused and y'all also know this too. Basketball is also about peaking at the right time and momentum and everything. I was one kind of worried about with my team. We was really playing good about 5 games ago. Hadn't played our best in the last 5, so I'm kind of worried about peaking a little bit early. But right now you got to take them one at a time, and ugly win's better than a pretty loss.
That's right.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I saw that firsthand, Coach. Just Thursday night here in town, the GIAA played their region tournaments this past week, and they're headed to state tournament action this week. But the girls team down at Westfield School in Perry, very good team. I think they're 21-4 now, 21-5 maybe after Thursday, but they came in, played a team they had beaten 3 times, I believe, this year, and just did not play well in the first half of that basketball game, and they ended up losing in that region tournament championship game. So they're still going to go to the playoffs. They're still going to make a run, but they just did not come out with their best on Thursday night, and it ended up costing them a little bit. And but they got some quality players in GIAA, and they'll do okay. They're going to bounce back, but it was exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes when you get to tournament play, if you don't bring your game off the bus, somebody can sneak up on you and lay one on you, and that's what happened here. You see it a lot and you even see it in college basketball when they get to the NCAA tournament. Yep. You see it happen all the time because you're going to have, how many times have we seen a 12, 13, 14, 15 seed win a first round game over somebody they weren't even supposed to be on the floor with? And it happens. And, you're right. I think basketball is set up to be a tournament game for sure.
Tell us a little bit about your team, Coach. Tell us a little bit about rundown on your girls.
Well, let me take one step back with Mike. Mike, it's tough, and we all know this. It's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Times you got to do that. If you play them in the regular season, I've had some times where I had to play them more than 3. And it's really, especially if you beat them. I had a good friend of mine, Grayson, last year. He's a good friend that he beat Newton twice and played them in state championship. In the state championship, they lost. And we talk about it. Sometimes kids get them to understand that, and everything else is really tough. So, I always say that the season's divided into 3 parts. I have up to Christmas. That's kind of like we're evaluating everything, whether it's rotations, whether it's what we're doing, everything else. And after Christmas, you try to clean it up. And then the third part is tournament time. And that's when you got to throw it all out the door, man. You got to win and survive. But, Marty, this team of mine is kind of a unique situation. We are not very big, especially for playing in the biggest classification in public school. We've only got probably our tallest player is 5'10", but really and truly the way that we play, it'd be great to have some big girls, but we play such a fast-paced up and down the floor that, we run probably 5 state championships, and our post players is 5'8" and 5'9", and playing 6'3" and 6'4" and everything else. But they just got to be tough. I think one of the most overrated things in basketball is you look at a big kid and you go, hey, they need to be playing in the post. That ain't got nothing to do with it. It's all about toughness in there. It's all about if you're going to play bodies on somebody and hit. And I'd rather have a physical 5'10" than a non-physical 6'2". So, but we press, made and miss shot. We have a style, and Marty, this sounds so easy, but if you can't watch us practice, you know what I'm talking about. But we've made a living in my 30-something years of coaching just by doing a couple of things. And one in girls basketball is just playing harder than everybody else. And I know they ain't a coach out there. If you pull them aside and you go, hey, does your team play hard? They're going to go, yeah, my team plays hard, because no coach is going to admit that. Now, when we go to the extremes, like we try to win warm-ups. Okay.
Yeah.
that sounds crazy. But if you come watch us, I did clinics on our warm-ups. And if you used to see us warming up, you'd go, my gosh. We've won games before they've ever started with warm-ups. I was in Dade County. Now, Dade County, they was really tough there. But we was playing Harris County in the Final Four. And back then, I even did some either crazier stuff. We was taking full-speed charges and all like that on the floor and everything else in warm-ups. But we're out there doing our thing and all like that. And I looked at my assistant coaches. I said, look, and their team had stopped their warm-ups and come to half court and was watching us. I looked at my assistant coaches. I said, hey, we're in great shape. Then all of a sudden the coaches got off the bench and they came to half court and started watching. I said, hey, we're in real good shape. And so, like I said, it's just it's funny because, going back to playing hard, it's just hard to replicate, in practice the way we're going to play against you, because my philosophy is I'm going to play 9 to 10 kids. We're going to basically play. You may have 3 superstars. You may have 3 great kids. But hopefully by the time we get through with you running those 9 kids at you all the game, both offense and defense, they're going to be dragging their tongues. Mm-hmm. And this worked really, really, really well. And because we always say it's our 9 or 10 against your 5. And our numbers are going to wear you down. So the first philosophy, I know that sounds so easy, is we're just going to play harder than you. Second one is we're going to be more fundamentally sound than you. And because I think both those things are controllable factors. See, kids don't come out at early age playing hard. Playing hard is a learned skill. Mm-hmm. And so, like if our practices are pretty brutal. And, they can't walk anywhere. They got to sprint off the floor. They got to sprint hand the referee the basketball. I mean, we're like I said, there's no walking anywhere. And so just by doing things differently, we've established that identity. And then fundamentals, we all know as a basketball coach, that's what the game is built on.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And so many people now, my team this year, I'm really disappointed in because they're not as fundamentally sound as we've been in the past. We talk about that every day because trying to sell fundamentals to kids now is really, really, really tough now. So it's day every day. We're on them. And I've talked about the other one about culture. Culture is the buzzword in sports now, but culture is not what we talk about. We talk about accountability because you can have every rule and everything else, but if you're not holding them accountable, it don't matter. So I made a living out of basically those 2 things, being more fundamental and also trying to play harder than people.
Hey, Gene, I'm writing this book about servant leadership right now. You mentioned that to me once. I put that quote, what you just said about accountability instead of culture, I put that in my book because that is the truth. You don't have culture unless everyone is accountable, because it's something like a positive peer pressure that drives everyone to do their best. That's what we want in a culture. And without accountability, you don't have it.
Well, go ahead, Mike. Let me mention something, right? Just to interject something right there, coach and coach both. Tell me if this is not true. What you want to see with accountability is you want to reach a point where you step back. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be the one holding anybody accountable because your leaders on the team are holding each other. They're holding everybody and each other accountable. And that's when you've got something, is when that starts happening on your team, right?
Well, that's a whole different level right there, because like I said, when your players start holding each other accountable, you got it made. That is an absolute true statement all the way through. I just did a podcast about 6 months ago, and basically the name of it was "Culture is not a slogan on a T-shirt," because with 90% of coaches, they put family on a T-shirt, or they put these slogans on the wall, or they put all this stuff. That stuff means nothing. If whatever you put up or whatever your standards and your expectations are, that's what you got to hold them accountable for. We replaced a long time ago, and like I said, I hope I'm not going backtracking over stuff, because I know, like I said, it was a long time ago I did the podcast, but a lot of that was about just my growing up and everything else. But a long time ago, we replaced rules because kids see rules as bad. And then rules can also paint you in a corner. Now, in our program, all we talk about basically is standards and expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like right now, one of the hardest things I think to do with a team is to have them improve while you're winning. And so every day, I had yesterday. Well, matter of fact, today I was at church, and one of the pastors there that goes to our game, he announces and everything else. He was telling this other guy, he said, Durden was out there the other night. He was up by 40, and I swear he had a girl over there, and he was just dragging her across the coals. And I told him, I said, because here's the deal: the scoreboard didn't matter. She was not playing up to our standards and what we need to do. And I said, it's not about the score and it's not about this. It's your standards and expectations that you're always fighting. And that goes along, like I said, with the accountability of culture.
Yeah, I'll add something right there. Just something that I noticed this week at the major college level in men's basketball. We talked about this last time. I'm an Auburn fan, so I pay attention to Auburn quite a bit. But if you watched Auburn's game with Arkansas yesterday, Auburn's leading scorer was on the bench in plain clothes. And then Wednesday night or Tuesday night, he did not play the last 12 and a half minutes of the game. And yet Stephen Pearl's answer to that was he was not playing up to our standards, and he is going to learn that if he doesn't play to our standards, he's not going to play. And so evidently he didn't recover enough from Tuesday night and start doing the things he needed to do. So they held him out yesterday, made him and put him on the bench in plain clothes, and he had to watch his team lose a game by 9-10 points on the road at Arkansas, and they didn't have his services. And so hopefully that's going to send a message to that young man that you need to, like our podcast here, you need to step up and start living up to the standards of this team and what you're expected to do and how you're expected to act. And I think that's critical in the game today. I think, and I really love what you said about replacing rules with standards and expectations, because if you can have standards and expectations and have those kids striving to live up to those, you don't have to worry about rules, because those things are going to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing you're talking about, accountability. Accountability is mentally and physically exhausting. Okay. Mm-hmm. To really hold a program accountable all the time, and it's tough. And then to get your assistants on the same page and do all that. And then the other thing that I see nowadays is something that, and I'm just old dog now. You got to remember, I'm a dinosaur. I've said it before. But, I see these players handcuff coaches because they're scared to death that they hold them accountable, they're going to leave and transfer, mm-hmm. and they're going to leave out. I just got through in one of the end of practices. I told them about our standards expectations. I said, if y'all don't like that, I said, I'll help you pack your bags. You can go anywhere you want. If you find some place to go better. But so many coaches are scared to death of losing kids. And I'm beyond that point now, because I promise you this, somewhere down the line, they're going to let you down. And they're usually going to let you down in the biggest parts of when you need them. So you was having a little story about the guy at Auburn. He was last year or the year before. I can't remember. I got a really good player. She's a senior this year, going to UTC, and she can be a little hard-headed, but we have non-negotiables in our program too. Like body language is a non-negotiable. We don't even talk about it. All right. You don't go palms up to a referee. You don't say nothing to a referee. And so we have that rule. And so last year in first round of state playoffs, referee, it was a bad call, and Dr. C, she's a little frustrated. She come down again, and next thing you know, she got fouled. She goes palms up. Well, next thing she's hearing is the horn. Okay, that's all she's hearing, horn. Mm-hmm. I'm up, go get her. Well, she comes off there, and I said, hey, we don't have any body language with the referee or something like that. So basically she goes down and into the bench. So in this first round of state tournament, our best players down there. So I bench her for a while. So I go down there. I said, okay, are you ready to officiate? Or are you ready to play? And she basically kind of looks at me kind of with some other body language. I said, good, sit. So I sat her the whole next quarter. Then we get in the locker room, and we have a little bit better discussion in the locker room. But I'm held her out pretty much the whole first half, because guess what? You ain't going out there, and you're not going. That's a non-negotiable in our program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many coaches are going to do that? I'm not saying right or wrong, but you know, when I tell them something, it's kind of like I did with my kids. My kids, it was never no means maybe, no means no. So
Mm-hmm.
by saying coaching, guess what? If I tell them no, you're not doing this, or you're held accountable to this, that's what it is. That's just it. And it's tough coaching nowadays because, like I said, a lot of these kids they're out the door and everything else. But I just firmly believe that if they can't take you coaching and basically telling them the truth and everything else, they're gonna let you down anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, Coach. Amen to you. The only thing worse than not having standards is having standards and not enforcing them.
Absolutely. And them
So,
other kids are watching now. Let me tell you what. I'll tell you a funny story now. I had a McDonald's All American. Now, let me tell you what, she made me look like I knew what I was doing now. Because I'm telling you, that little bitty Dade County, and you got a McDonald's All American. Well, she would go to exhaustion. I mean, it was crazy how good she was and how hard she practiced. So when she got tired and I could tell her legs were weary and all that, I'd go up to her before practice. I'd say, Ashley. Now, her name was Ashley House. I said, Ashley, I'm going to find something that you did wrong today at practice. And I said, I'm going to go completely crazy on you. I said, don't you worry. You just do what I tell you to do and go, follow along. She'd do something and I would just go nuts. I say, I tell you what, since you don't want to be coachable, you go get your stuff out of the locker room now and you go home. Go home right now. And little did everybody know that, number one, I was sending her out of practice to basically rest her. And number two, all them other girls were watching me like, oh, my gosh, if he'll do that to his best player, what's he going to do to me? I didn't have to get their attention very hard. It worked.
There you go. There you go.
I achieved two things in one.
You did.
I don't know if you've ever heard Lou Holtz tell the story, but I think it was when he was I don't know if it was when he's in Arkansas I think it was when he was still at Arkansas, but they upset somebody in a bowl game. And they just came out of the locker room, and from the get-go, they got after them, and, they built a lead, and they held on, and they won. And somebody asked Coach Holtz, he said, Coach, what did you do to get those guys to play so hard like that and believe they could? He said, I told them that in the locker room that the last 11 people out of the locker room had to start. and that was a funny thing, but I mean, it's all tongue in cheek, but he had them ready to play, and they went out and accomplished their job, and it's all because probably exactly the same thing you're talking about. You hold them accountable, and when you recognize that, you take care of them in the same way, but you hold them to those standards.
Yes. Well, the other thing that's so important, and I think this is I'll never forget. When I got to Buford, I have a unbelievable mentor. He was the AD there, Dexter Wood. He's a legend.
He is a legend.
And let me tell you, he's still here at Buford. He's our athletic director, supervisor of whatever. He's got some kind of title, which means he just hangs around and helps and all that. But Dexter is an unbelievable man. But when I got to Buford, he was basically, everybody was scared to death of him. I mean, they were. And me, I wasn't scared of him, but I respected him. But I'd try to make him laugh and everything else. Well, at the end of every season, Dexter have a coaches meeting with you. So here I go. I got my coaches meeting after my first year. So he brings me in there, sits me down, and the first thing he says to me, he goes, Gene, I've never seen anything like it. I said, what are you talking about, Coach? He said, I've never seen a coach that could get on a kid like you get on them out in public and just tear them apart. And then 3 minutes later, I look down there and they're hugging your neck. And I said, Coach, that's easy. He said, well, how's it easy? I said, because those girls know truly that I love them and I care about them.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. I care more about them as a person than I do as a basketball player. And so, saying all that to say this, I'm a firm believer that you cannot coach kids hard unless they truly know that you care about them. And
Mhm.
and I just believe, and don't get me wrong, nowadays it's a whole lot harder than it was 15, 20 years ago
No
because it's
doubt.
really hard to establish the relationships and all those things. But it's like with my players now, I'm really hard on them with expectations and all, but I bet once a week I'll pull them into the office and I'll say, do you really understand why I'm doing this? Well, Coach, I'm like, well, the reason why is I see more in you. I think you can give more. I love you. I care about you, and I want the best out of it. And so I have truthful conversations with them. I'm always trying to basically build those relationships. I'm letting them know that I care about them more than basketball. And you mentioned something earlier, and this is the way I judge the success of our program. I judge it by some different things, and it ain't by championships and all that stuff. Every time you come to Buford right now, and we got a home game, you can come in our locker room, and we'll have 4 to 5 of our former players, or more than that sometimes, is in that locker room. I
Mm.
can tell you this: when a kid graduates from high school, they're not going back to their high school to hang out or whatever unless somebody had an impact in their life.
That's exactly right.
And those kids are coming back every year when they're. Do y'all know who Andrea Carter is?
Yeah.
Andrea is the young lady on ESPN now that's one of the top brightest stars. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I had the honor of coaching Andrea Carter. She played for me at Buford. And let me tell you what, every time she's back in Buford, and this is a kid that I'm telling you, she's on a rocket ship right now, being one of the hottest announcers that there is. She's the only female that is on college game day with the males. Okay,
Mhm.
with Jay Billis and all that crew. I mean, that's how good she is. And every time she's back at Buford, the first thing she does is text me and say, "Coach, I'm coming to see you." Okay, there's no reason that child should be able to come back and see me unless it was a great relationship and an impact. And I say this all the time at clinics and all of that. You'll become a lot better coach, and you'll become just head and shoulders above everybody else when you can realize the difference when basically you're impacting lives and you basically you come and you know that your purpose is to win games and your purpose is to do this and your purpose is to do that. But when you find the difference between purpose and impact, it's a whole different world because that's what we're doing is impacting lives.
Wow, that is well said. And that's
Mhm.
the whole point to coaching. That's the thing right there. Gosh, Coach,
Mhm.
thank you for saying that.
Well, it's not rocket science, but I'm telling you, if you're gonna coach kids hard and everything else, it's all about relationships,
Mhm.
and that's what it really. And bottom line, when it comes to it, there's great coaches everywhere that don't win championships or don't win this, but you know what? They're impacting lives, and that's what their purpose is. And let me tell you what, it's so powerful with that, and those coaches are winning no matter what.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Coach, we want to hear a story, and I know this is a hard story for you to tell, but I think it's something that every coach needs to hear, and it's from the heart. And I want you to tell us the story of your son.
It is, Marty. I'm glad you asked because I'm glad to be able to do this because this is really it changed my life, and I hope that hearing this, I've done it on so many clinics, so many podcasts, and I've had so many people connect with me about this, but it's really important that I basically go into this, and thank you for this opportunity. But
Sure.
some of y'all may know this, and most people probably don't. But I lost my oldest son in a motorcycle accident. Okay, he was killed on a motorcycle about close to 13 years ago. And for me to kind of get you to understand is I kind of got to go back a little bit, but and kind of tell you a little bit of background on this. But this also ties into what we was talking about with relationships. But my oldest son and firstborn Devin, he was spoiled to death. He was born in basically Thomasville, but when we got to Dade County, we went there, and the community just spoiled him, and he was something else to deal with. Now I'm telling you, he was something else. He was the kind of kid that when you drew a line right there, he'd step his toe over it, and he's always trying to get by with just a little bit all the time. So growing up, boy, he was fun to be around and everything. Had great personality and everything else. Well, we moved to Buford. People don't understand, but I moved to Buford a lot of times for my kids. I didn't move for me because Buford had great opportunities for my children, and Devin was one of those. So here he goes, boy. I married really well. My wife is 6 foot and shortest one in her family, and some of y'all, and I know Robert Melton knows her and everything else. So I was lucky to have children, had great size and everything else. Well, Devin is my boy's name. He basically grows up to be a big, strong young man, about 6'3", 6'4", about 230, 240, and was a great football player and played here at Buford. Okay. So he goes through, but Devin's always that kid that was always, like I said, he was never in bad trouble or anything, but he was just a handful and me and him went together a lot of times like oil and water. So next thing you know, he gets to his senior year and he gets an offer to go to the Air Force Academy. Well, how proud can you be as a father if your son gets an opportunity to go get an appointment at the Air Force Academy because your life is set? You know, all you got to do is go out there and do your thing, and they'll take care of you. And just, you know, that's an Ivy League education and just everything you want for a father for your son. So he goes out there and he has to go through some trial and error. You know, he had to tighten down his academics, and they're out there. They got so many responsibilities with the cadres and everything else of what they got to do and everything. But Devin was always one that was always kind of stepping across that line. And he'd call me up and he'd go, Dad, you know, here's the deal. I got a demerit for this, got a demerit for that. And I'd be like, all right, you're okay. Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Because he could talk his way out of anything. Okay. I don't know, like somebody else, you know, his mama or whatever. So the day comes where he's basically in his third year out there. And he calls me and goes, Dad, I don't know how to tell you this, but they kicked me out of the Air Force Academy. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, I got too many demerits, so I'm out. Well, you can imagine how devastated his mother was, I was, everything. It was just devastating. So his brother, his middle brother, decides he's going to fly out and ride back with him because it's about a 2-day or 3-day haul. And I'm sure he was not looking forward to coming home. So they probably made it a little bit longer to get home. So for those 2 to 3 days, I am just tore up and I am just upset as bad. I'm like, how in the world could you basically run a basically a $500,000 education just by not doing what you need to do? And I'm just tore up and just upset. So anyway, after about 3 days, we was expecting them late one night, about 7:00. And so the doorbell rings. Basically come in, or I hear them outside. Now, my personality, Marty and Mike, is to meet my son nose to nose at that door. And like, how could you do this? What was you thinking just to probably lose my mind? Okay. Well, God has given me a lot of gifts in my life. But the best gift, and I don't know why, but the best gift that God has ever given me was, and I still don't know to this day, went to the door, met him, hugged his neck. We go in, we sit down as our family. We start talking about it. we start listening to what he's got to say and everything else. And he goes, Dad, I messed up. I don't know what to say to you, but I can tell you I'm gonna stay in the military. I'm gonna make this right. I'm gonna basically take care. I'm gonna own up to it. Everything. So we spend probably an hour and a half there with our whole family talking with everything and all that. While I'm emotionally drained, just tore up. So I go upstairs. I got a little man cave upstairs. Next thing you know, he comes. Now you got to remember, it's a big old boy. He comes upstairs. He walks in the room, walks up to me and says, Dad, I know I let you down. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna do right. He hugs my neck, and I hug him. Matter of fact, kissed him on the forehead. He goes to bed. I go to bed. Next day, he's meeting his brother out in the mall of Georgia, going out to eat on a motorcycle. That's another story. And a young lady pulls out in front of him, and he hits the side of the SUV, and he is broken up. It didn't kill him instantly. He goes to the hospital, and he's got a broke back, so many ribs broken that they can't even count. Never regained consciousness. He's there. And the hardest thing the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life is watch this 6'3", 240-pound boy fight for every breath and me hanging on every breath with him. And he lived, and my wife's smarter than I am. She's a nurse. So, I'm thinking he's in the hospital. He's going to live. He's going to live. And my wife's like, Gene, he's going down. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's going to be all right. She goes, no, his oxygen is going down. And he ended up basically that 8 days where me and my wife's right there with him. We see him take his final breath. I was holding him, kissing him right there. And he died basically in our arms. Now, you probably wonder, why am I telling this? Or why am I saying this? Well, the reason why I'm saying this is basically you never know in your relationships when they go in. And God gave me the biggest gift, because if I would have went with what I usually do, I would have met him at the door nose to nose, and we would have had it out. We would have had it out. Anyway, one thing that gives me peace is I will always remember him coming upstairs and hugging my neck and telling me he loved me, and me telling him I loved him, because that's the last words that was ever said between us. And I'm going to tell you something, honestly. If it hadn't ended that way, I don't know if I would be on this podcast right now if it ended any differently, because I don't know if I could have lived with myself. So my point being, to everybody out there listening, you have family members, spouses, children, so many people in your life that you have relationships with. Make sure every night you end them the right way, because you don't ever know or have any idea when that relationship can end. And I have peace in my heart. I have peace in my heart because of the way that me and my son ended our relationship that night, that I would never see him again. So that's my real message to everybody, because I have lived it. And it's something that, like I said, at least I have peace right now with that.
Coach, that's an incredible story. I appreciate so much you telling the story. I almost lost my eldest son.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, it is strikes. Place in your heart when you have a kid named after you, your son, your first blood, and you don't know, you get that call in the middle of the night, Gee whiz. What a great story.
Well,
End on,
and I don't say that for any sadness, anything. I My son has lived on through me and my wife and our family because we've learned so many great lessons through the loss of him, of how many things that we put in our lives that we think is so important, and they're not. They're not at all. And like I said, I'm not saying that for any sadness or anything like that. It's just that, like I said, through the loss of him, we learned a lot about ourselves, and we learned a lot about relationships and how it should be, and not to take them for granted and everything else. So, like I said, I'm just thankful for y'all to give me the opportunity to share that. I shared it at the end of every clinic that I do, and share it with the other podcasts and all. But man, there's so many people in your life. You need to make sure you let them know that you love them, that you care about them, because, like I said, it happened in mine. Life is so fragile; it can change in an instant.
Uh, Coach, all of us are fathers of boys, and um, you know, knowing those relationships, sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not so great at different times, and it's because of a plethora of different things that can happen. But I thought about, while you were talking, I thought about uh, um, the Philip Lutzenkirchen story, the tight end from Auburn that was killed in a car accident, and what his dad has done since that tragedy. And he basically said some of the same things you just said about how much they have learned and how they've learned from that tragedy to deal with people and how to take that and help other people with it. And I think that's what you do every time you tell this story. And everybody who's going to watch this tonight is going to get something out of this. As folks used to say, if that don't light a little fire in you, then your wood's wet. I mean, that's it is something that I'll tell you, my dad used to mess that up. My dad had a bad habit of messing sayings up, and he was a Baptist preacher, and he said it from the pulpit one morning. He said, "If that don't light your fire, your sawdust is wet." And everybody kind of looked at each other like, I don't think he got that right. But anyway, that's beside the point. He meant the same thing. But it's absolutely true that you don't ever know. You don't ever know when somebody is going to leave your life unexpectedly. We just had a coach 2 weeks ago, Coach Durden, that was tragically killed on a Saturday afternoon, head baseball coach at Harris County High School. You may have heard about that.
I did.
Well known, well loved, and a coaching family in this whole community. And he had a tremendous and profound effect on a lot of lives, and he was still a young guy. And just to see the outpouring and everything that happened in that situation, it's another example of, you don't ever know when the last time you're going to talk to somebody is. And you don't want it, just like you said, you don't want it to end being one of those conversations where it was heated and some things were said that probably had no meaning, no true meaning. They were just said in anger. And then, you just don't want to, you don't want to live with yourself after that. And you were right. And I thought it was tremendous of you to say that God gave you the greatest gift by keeping that from happening, because he laid his hand on your shoulder, and he took you through that.
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, Coach Durden, I love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
Hey, Coach, we're going to be watching what happens this week and watching what happens the rest of the week, and hope to. I still hope to one day get to see your girls team play. I want to come watch them. I want to come see you coach, and shake your hand in person. You and I have met twice now, and we've done it through the airwaves here, and I want to meet you in person and talk to you and maybe give you a hug.
Well, I would love to have y'all anytime. The other thing is, I am so thankful and grateful and humbled to be able to be on here, because these things I don't take them for granted. That's something that I was just talking about. I don't take things in my life for granted, and I don't take friends for granted, and I don't take opportunities for granted, and I really don't. And I'm just thankful for y'all to give me a platform to hopefully share. I can promise you this: I am definitely not the smartest guy in the world. I'm smart because I've got some great people around me. I don't have all the answers. I've been very blessed. I tell people this all the time. The other thing that God did with me that I'm so blessed about is He put me in every coaching situation. He put me in a place where I needed to be and took care of me, because there's a lot of coaches have been put in situations that they're working themselves to death and can't be successful and can't do this. Well, He blessed me by putting me in all mine with great mentors. I mentioned some of the people earlier. Those people have invested in me, because I'm a collection of a whole lot of people that invested in me, and I don't take those for granted either.
Absolutely.
We sure do appreciate your time, Coach, and we will have you back again. And maybe, hey, maybe it'll be after we're celebrating state championship number 9, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to think about that, okay? But we may have to have you back for that too.
Well, there's some really good teams in 7A. There's a couple of loaded ones that I don't know if we could play our best, if we could beat them, but they'll at least know they've been in a dogfight.
That's right.
Well, Coach, what I want you to do this week is go 1-0 twice. How about that?
That's all.
Go 1-0 twice, and then we'll worry about the rest of it after that. But this coming week, I want you to go 1-0 twice and get that over with. But Coach, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for being willing to share that with us. And folks out there, if you don't get something out of this, I'm wondering about you. But number one, and number two, I know you got something out of this, so please share it with people, and please get it out there and share it around, and send it to whoever. Copy the link off YouTube, send it around to your friends, and tell them to watch this. And we're so grateful to have a guy like you with us, Coach. This is 2 times now, and both of them have been just outstanding episodes of this podcast, and that's what we're here for. We want coaches and other folks that come on here to tell their story and to be able to use their story to help other people, especially younger folks who are getting into the profession or doing something around this profession, or any profession for that matter, to better themselves and to carry that forward. And that's why we're here. And that's why we named this Step Up, Make a Difference, because we want people who are willing to do that. And folks, just to remind you, God's going to give you the opportunity. God's going to open a door. He's going to give you the opportunity. He's going to give you that opportunity to step up. Be willing to do it. As Martin Luther King says, be willing to take that first step, even when you can't see the bottom of the staircase. If you'll do that, when God puts it in front of you, you're going to get a blessing, but you're also going to bless other people as you go through, and you're going to have an impact, as Coach talked about today. Thanks again, Coach, for being with us. Marty, have a great time up in Hilton Head this week. I hope your girls play well. I hope the weather holds for you. And Coach, 1-0 twice this week. That's our goal for you. I'm going to be watching when the scores come across later this week. And, we'll, like Marty said, hopefully next time we have you on, we'll be celebrating another championship.
Thank you again. I appreciate it so much.
Well, I'm Mike Peacock. That's Marty Durden. That's Gene Durden. And this has been Step Up, Make a Difference, the podcast. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Step Up, Make a Difference. Got a special guest next week. We got a man named Rick Carl, who is a longtime broadcaster in Birmingham, and now he is a social media guy he has a tremendous following, and he's got a tremendous story to tell in his life as well, but he has been around the Southeastern Conference sports scene for many, many years. And Rick is going to join us next week here on Step Up. So don't miss that one. It'll be great. I promise you, it'll be great. You'll be glad you did. But everybody have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week on Step Up, Make a Difference, the podcast. All right, Coach. Thank you, man. That was unreal. Just appreciate it.
Thank y'all so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be with y'all. And anything you can ever do, you let me know.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Marty? He went away.
Marty's gone. Mike.
Coach, I'll see you, man.
Take care, brother.
Yes, sir. Have a wonderful week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sound.